Already done discussing the instructional health planning or the health educational plan to be specific. So now, let's discuss on how to develop the health educational plan. Of course, in developing health educational plan, we will be knowing the different methodology and strategies of it. So today, our lesson is pertaining to the methodology and strategies on how can we develop the health educational plan or your plan to be specific. Okay? Let's focus first with the discovery approach methodology. So meaning to say, when I say discovery approach methodology, this methodology focuses on the process. When I say process, you are now encourages the student to look for solution instead of teaching or instead of just teaching your student or your client or your family in a certain community. You have, instead of just teaching, binibigyan nyo sila ng panahon na kung pwede sila ang hahanap or this kind of approach, you will be letting your student to look for the solution. So, hindi ikaw mismo yung magtuturo. You will be guiding the student or the family in the community, but you will be trying to give the student the independency that they want, sila yung hahanap ng solution sa problema na yon. So that is discovery approach methodology. So what are the examples of discovery approach? So one of the examples of discovery approach is to create a simulation of things. Okay, what do you mean by simulation? So when we say simulation, you are trying to make the students or to replicate a certain situation with a certain situation. Oo, yan yung simulation. So meaning to say, the student will replicating a certain situation or a certain what do you call this, process. Yun yung simulation. Having student create a simulation. Other than that, you can also give a student a problem to solve. Then in order to solve the problem, the student must gather information, research, ask question about the possible solution to the given problem. So that is the example of the discovery approach. So from the example, you can eventually know that discovery approach is by letting the student to look for the solution itself. For them to look the solution within themselves. Yung sa kanila lang. You as an instructor, you as a medical practitioner will serve as the guide in that type of methodology. So that is discovery approach method. Okay, sorry with the PowerPoint. I think there are the difference between the word that or the PowerPoint, year of the PowerPoint that I've use is different from my laptop and phone. That's why the definition of discovery approach ay nawala dito. But eventually, I explain it naman. So next, we have the process approach. When we say process approach, it is a complete science program whose focus on the scientific processes. Observing, classifying, using numbers, measuring space-time relationship, communicating, predicting, inferring, defining operationally, formulating hypotheses, interpreting data, controlling variables, and experimenting. Concept and facts are necessary parts of the program also, but they are not its major focus. So that is a process approach. So meaning to say, when I say process, this program is completely about scientific processes. So what are those scientific processes? It is for from observing to lastly, which is experimenting. So there are step-by-step processes in the process approach. That's why it's called process approach, because there is a process, step-by-step that is to be followed. So in our case, we are in the field of science. You are a medical practitioner. So meaning to say, the process is called scientific. So we have a scientific process, a scientific method that we eventually follow from the observing to having the experiment and with the conclusion. So that is process approach. Okay? So what are those example of process approach? So the example for process approach are definitely internal training. So your program itself is a process approach. Leadership and performance evaluation, that is also a example of process approach. And also the development, the service itself is example of a process approach. Okay, so what do you think is the purpose of having the process approach? So the purpose of the process approach is to enhance an organization effectiveness and efficiency in achieving its defined objectives. So that is the purpose of the process approach. So you as a medical practitioner in a certain community, if you use the process approach, you eventually use it with the purpose, and that purpose is for you or for the community, for the organization in the community, enhance their effectiveness and efficiency to, of course, achieve your certain goal as a medical practitioner who go in their community. So that is a process approach. Next is science, technology, and society. This is very, very easy, and I assume you know this one because you have a subject science, technology, and society. So meaning to say, as a medical practitioner, you also bring this science and technology in the society. Not in the sense that you will be giving them a computer, a cell phone, or so on and so forth, like technology, just to bring what happened in the city to that community. What is the high end uses of this different technology in the city, then bring it to the community. So that is the meaning of science, technology, and society. It approached the defined by National Science Teacher Association as the teaching and learning of science and technology in the context of human experience. Kaya nga yung sinasabi ko na you as a medical practitioner, you have to bring what happening is in the city or what a high-end uses about the technology, you have to bring them in the community. Why? You have to teach them that this is what ways or technology that we'll be using so that the health education or the health in the community will be easy or will be not problem because of this different medical what they call this medical technology in a certain medication. Sorry, these are the technology that we've uses to enhance our health, to give a solution in the different problem pertaining to the health. So that is science, technology, and society. Kaya nga may quotation dito, teaching and learning of science and technology in the context of human experience. So you will be bringing the science, which is the content, and the technology, which is the application of the science, bring it to the society for them to experience what is in that one. So that is science, technology, and society. So we also have discussion method. So discussion method are variety of forums for open-ended collaborative exchange of ideas among a teacher and students or among students for the purpose of furthering students' thinking, learning, problem solving, understanding, or literary appreciation. Participants present multiple points of view, respond to the ideas of others, reflect on their own ideas in an effort to build their knowledge, understanding, or interpretation of the matter at hand. Discussion may occur among members of a DED or a small group or whole class and be teacher-led or student-led. So, when you use a methods which is called discussion, it's very easy. Why? Because you are eventually discussing the topic. You will be discussing the topic, then along the topic, you will be giving or you will be, what do you call this? You will be interacting to your student. You will be interacting to the community itself. So that is discussion method. You will literally discussing your health program, your health educational program in the community. So that is discussion methods, meaning to say you are in the open-ended collaborative exchange of ideas among you as a medical practitioner and them as a community. So that is discussion method. So let's proceed. to the problem-based learning. So problem-based learning is it is a broad family of instructional approaches, involves solving problems and answering questions. So uncertain, the model promotes higher level thinking in a problem-oriented situation, including learning how to learn. Added that the essence of PBL, or the problem-based learning, involves the presentation of authentic, meaningful situation that serve as foundation for student investigation. Goals for problem-based learning. Number 1, develop their thinking, problem solving, and intellectual skills. Number 2, learn adult rules by experiencing them through real or stimulated situation. And number 4, become independent, autonomous learners. So when we say problem-solving learning, from its word problem-based learning, meaning to say this approach is very broad because it involves as the solving the problem. You have to solve the problem itself, because that's why you have the so-called learning, because of the problem itself. That is why it's called problem-based learning. Your learnings is based on the problem. So meaning to say, in this approach, you are dealing on solving the problem. That is the key term. Okay, let's proceed. Problem-solving model. In the problem-based learning, we also have this so-called instructional approach, which is called problem-solving model. It is a problem-based instructional approach in which teacher helps student learn to solve the problem. Problem-solving skills is the ability to recognize, identify, define, describe a problem. Determine the preferred solution, select the strategies, test solution, evaluate outcomes, and revise any of the given steps of necessary. So when we say problem-solving model, meaning you as a medical practitioner is there to the community to help them to solve. Kaya nga nandyan ka. If you use this problem-solving model, or this is very useful. Lahat naman ng medical practitioner or lahat naman ng organization, particular in health education program, uses problem-solving model eh. Lahat sila nag-use ito. Bakit? Kailangan mo kasi, that is your purpose. That is your purpose going to the community to help them to solve the problem. So that is problem-solving model. Meaning to say, as a medical practitioner or even a teacher like me, I am here to help you to know what is health education. What is how you can be a medical practitioner someday. I am the teacher that can help you. Ganon. So you as a medical practitioner also can help the community itself to solve the certain problem. Okay? So let's proceed. So there are 6 steps in problem-solving model. So first, of course, in the problem-solving model, hindi naman agad-agad that you've let them to tell the problem, then eventually you have the solution. No. You have to follow the steps. First, identify the problem. Dapat talaga, you have to let them trust you. You have to let them tell you what is happening, what is the problem. Then, represent the problem. Next, select a strategy. Ano yung gagawin mo with regards to the problem? Third, carry out the strategy. Meaning to say, apply the strategy na. If it is, what do you call this? Correct ba or fit ba with regards to the problem, or answerable ba, or this strategy that you have can be the solution of the problem. Then evaluate the result. If your result is good, if your designated what they call the strategy is a solution to the problem, then evaluate your result. Then lastly, you have to analyze the process. What makes the solution itself, what makes the strategy itself make a solution? Paano siya naging solution? Paano siya naging sagot to the problem? So that is the problem-solving method, or the 6 steps on problem-solving method. Okay? Let's go now to the project method. The focus in a project-based instruction is directed on the production of the project towards the solution of a given problem. A project is an activity that involves investigation, of the facts of the particular issue and the reporting of these facts in various ways. Likewise, a project is a relatively long-term investigation study from which students produce something called the culminating presentation, where students can apply what they have learned. So that is project method. Meaning to say, there is a production. Merong application part. Merong gagawin si student. Sorry with that. Nasa mid si ma'am. Okay, may production na nangyayari. From the content that you've delivered to the community, afterwards, there is a production. May resulta. Merong ginawa si student. Merong ginawa si family that eventually you will be checking. So that is project-based method. Meaning to say, this method, if you use this one, you have to have the community service in a long-term investigation. Kasi pahaba ito eh. From the production itself of what is your program, kailangan mo hintayin yon. So that is project method. Okay, let's proceed. The learning outcome usually comes in the form of hands-on items. Yun na nga sinasabi natin. That you have to weight the item itself, the product itself. Of some kind like display, play, or skit, book, song, poem, multimedia presentation, posters, parties, maps, charts, and the like. Okay, this is particular on teaching student, but teachers and the students. But you as a medical practitioners, what are those hands-on items related on health education? Yun yung kailangan yung ipapagawa sa kanila. Or kahit not only in the health education but also in the finances or economic crisis of the community, you can help naman in accordance to your health education program. Like for example, what are those hands-on item that can boost their economic level in that community? You can help with that. So that in that kind of hands-on item, pwede nila yung magamit to lessen their problem in the health education. 'Di ba? Yon. Okay? Let's proceed to laboratory method. Laboratory method is very useful to you as a medical practitioner because it is all about the laboratory. It is all about the method in the laboratory, meaning to say laboratory experiences as distinguished from demonstration necessitate a high degree of students' involvement. There are direct first-hand experiences which place the student face to face with the problem he or she exploring or task he or she is performing. Meaning to say, after the demonstration itself, you will be performing. Inside the laboratory, you will be having an experimentation. So that is a laboratory method. So meaning to say, not in the community, but in the laboratory. Kasi as a medical technology, you always use this one, laboratory method. You explain a certain content and afterward, go to laboratory to experiment it, right? So that is laboratory method. Okay, let's proceed to another slide. Shulman and Tamir, which is this is the particular particular references that I've used as. Okay, skills: manipulative, inquiry, investigative, organizational, communicate. So this is particular in the laboratory method. First, concept. Of course, before going to the laboratory method, or before you will going to the laboratory or applying the what is in the concept, kailangan mo talaga magkaroon ng concept. For example, hypothesis, theoretical model, or taxonomic category. So you have to know the concept, the content itself before you go to the laboratory. Next, cognitive abilities, meaning to say critical thinking. Nandiyan na kasi you are experimenting something eh. Think, problem solving. Yes, you will solve a certain problem in the laboratory kasi there are a lot of problem that you will be encountering in the laboratory. Application. You will be applying it since you are now demonstrating the experiment, analysis, yes, and synthesis. So that is the cognitive abilities that you will be showing in the laboratory, or if you will be using laboratory method as your strategy or methodology. Okay, next. Understanding the nature of science. So scientific enterprise, scientists and how they work, existence of a multiplicity of scientific method. So between science and technology and among the various discipline of science. Of course, in the laboratory, you have to work as a what they call this, as a medical practitioner, you have to work as a professional. You have to know what are those rules and regulation inside the laboratory. So for the lesson of the repeating of the experiment, meaning to say for the lesson of the yung result maging maganda, for not contaminated, or there's no such word like contamination in your laboratory, because you follow the different do's and don'ts of the laboratory itself, meaning to say the rules and regulations. So understanding the nature of science. Okay, for the attitude, for example, of course, being a science in the field of science, or in the field of medical, you are curious in the sense that in a thing, pwede mo siyang, you will experiment it to know the result. Kailangan talaga yan. Meron talagang attitude tayo. Lagi. Interest. Risk-taking. Oo. If you are in the medical field, kailangan you are a risk-takers. Objectivity. Precision. Confidence. Yes. Perseverance. Satisfaction. Responsibility. Consensus. Collaboration. And liking science. So that is attitude that you will be going to show in the laboratory if you want to use laboratory method. Kailangan mo yan. If you are dealing with science, if you are dealing with medical, kailangan meron ka yan. Curious, interest, risk takers, kasi science is very broad. Science has its own explanation. Diba? Has its own facts. So that's why it's included to the laboratory method. Okay? So now, let's go on to another strategy or methods. We have field trips and community study. A field trip, which may also be termed as an instructional trip, school excursion, school journey, is defined by the reference that I've used by Krepel and Duvall in 1981 to be a school or class trip with an educational intent in which students interact with the setting displays and exhibit to gain an experiential connection to the ideas, concept, and the subject matter. So field trips and community study is always used in a face-to-face, right? So in the field trips naman, this is intended for the educational process. So if you will be using a field trips, so it can be, so that it's meaning to say you are going to a certain place, which is the community itself can learn with that place. So that is field trip and community study. Okay? So field trips may be planned for the 5 purposes to provide, yun na nga, I will not be reading it. So that is the plan or the 4 purpose of the field trips. So meaning to say, this is actually for the community or the student itself to experience what is in that place. Okay, experiential learning. So meaning to say, it is quite connected to the field trips. Experiential, meaning to say the student or the community experience something in that place. It is important to understand experiential learning when discussing field trips. Why? Experiential learning is authentic first-hand, sensory-based learning. Experiential activities explore, touch, listen, to watch, move things, disassemble and reassemble. Learning consists of grasping an experience and then transforming it into application or result. So yun na nga sinasabi natin that field trips is connected to the experiential learning, or what kind of learning that you will be giving to the student or to the community is called experiential learning, kasi you will be letting them to experience what is in that place. What is the educational part of in that place that can be shown. Kaya yon nangyayari na experiential learning. Nagkakaroon sila natututo sila from the experiences that they have in that certain trip of yours or field trips of yours. So that is field trips and community study. Okay? Let's proceed to the community-based learning. Okay, for community-based learning, it is engages students by using their own communities as the source and focus of learning. So meaning to say, you will be letting the community or the student to what? to provide their own, or to let them explains what is in their community, what is in the community itself, that can be basically be learning of the others, of the young people, or the other group of family in that community. Community-based learning gives young people structure, opportunity, and tools to physically exploring their communities. Kasi bakit? Doon hahayaan mo yung bata, or hahayaan mo yung person na tinuturuan mo na to explore in their community. Kasi doon siya maghahanap Doon siya maghahanap ng matututunan, or you will be letting them to explore or to expose their community. So that is community-based learning. Okay? Next, it gives also the opportunity to apply new skills and practice them in the novel settings through community-based observation, discussion, and problem solving. Students acquire both facts and multiple perspectives against which to refine their existence, knowledge, and skills. So that is community-based learning. You will be letting them to expose, to explore, and to think beyond the box in their community. So, yan. So, the community ang kanilang instrument. Yun. To have the so-called learning. Okay? Community-based learning. Next, we have cooperative learning. Cooperative learning from the word cooperative. Formal groups. Formal groups are usually most effective or useful in the academic of classroom setting than in service or patient educational departments. So an example for cooperative learning, we have nursing research course where groups of students are assigned to develop a thesis proposal. Okay, thesis or research is one of a formal group, type of a formal group in cooperative learning. Why? Because the ideas itself is coming from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 students in the research. While in informal group, it can be used in any setting. Even in the community, after discussing the topic, the learners group can be broken into smaller group. Yun na nga, if you are going to the community, pwede mo rin siyang i-apply. Not only in the aspect of academe, but also in the aspect of a community. Pwedeng i-apply ang cooperative learning in the informal group. Informal group lang ang tawag. Yan, pwede mo silang divided into smaller group, then give them a certain task to be presented. So that is cooperative learning. As long as the ideas is not coming from one person, as long as the ideas is coming from different person, that is cooperative learning. Okay? Think, pair, share. Yun na nga sinasabi ko. The ideas is coming from one to a lot more person. So, simple questioning techniques keeps all the students involved in the class discussion and provides an opportunity for every child to share an answer to every question. Think, tapos pair, share. You can compare you can eventually share and accept an idea. You can also share and accept idea. So, batuhan lang ng mga ideas ang think, pair, and share. Okay, you can make your both ideas into one answer like that. Okay, so these are the steps. Think, begin asking a question about the topic or concept and allow students to think individually about their answer. Pair. Each student is paired with another if uneven numbers allow to discuss their answers. 2 to 5 minutes. So this is actually an activity pala. So in a community pwede rin you give them a think, pair, share about the health education program that you've been discussed. Pwede pala yon. Then share. Then afterward, share, expand the discussion to the whole class by calling upon student to discuss. So pwede mo yung ibigay sa community after you discuss your health education program. Pwede mong bigyan sila ng activity or task, then divided into smaller group, then tell them to think, pair, and share. Yan. Okay? Then lastly, we have simulation. It is an imitation, yun na nga sinasabi ko, recreation or representation of the structure or dynamics of real thing or situation, which the learner actively participate and interacts with the person or things in the environment, applies previously learning knowledge to solve problem or situation, and receive feedback about his or her responses without the fear of adverse effects related to real life consequences or result. So simulation is pertaining to the imitating, or you are imitating, or the student or the community itself imitating a certain act or a certain situation, real thing situation, with which the learner can be actively participate. So by that sense, they can have a so-called learning. So that is another concept or another methodology and strategies of how to develop your health education program or health education itself. Okay, so that's it. That is our last topic for health, for PST, for your midterm. So I hope you understand it all with regards to the methodology in the first lesson that we have, which is health educational plan. So please view and listen this discussion for you to help in answering my examination in midterm. So if you have a question and clarification, you can leave it to our GC or you can PM me. Thank you very much for listening and have a nice day.